real conversation.
It's so complicated. So
As we're just coming back into taking a seat, Lindsay came and had a chat to me, and that the TDC has just set some new rules, on wilding pines, etc. coming in. So, Lindsay, do you want to have a quick conversation about that while people are taking a seat?
Yeah, these.
Come here, Lindsay, use this.
Yeah, so basically, I've got a few of these over on my little display table here, which is just the pocket guide to the Tasman Nelson Regional Pest Management Plan, and something that's just been passed by council is that if your property adjoins a forestry block, and it might be a TDC forest, it might be 141 forest, or whatever, and you're keeping your side of the fence line clear of of wilding pines, or you're managing that area for wilding pines, the forestry owner is required to maintain your side of the boundary back 200 metres in of wilding pines. So that's a requirement on the forestry owner. So that's a new rule, and that should assist with the spread of wilding pines.
If you want to know more, go ahead and talk to Lindsay after this. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce the section where we're going to talk about pests and pest control. And we've got some really cool people in the room that have got experience in it from a community side, a couple of people from the practical side. But I'd like to introduce Nick, who's one of my heroes of knowing lots of people and knowing lots of ways of dealing to pests and wise on the ground and wise with communities. So, Nick, you can give us an intro.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, Nick Sparks. A little bit about me. I started in the pest industry over in the Marlborough District Council back in the late 90s, and fell into it by accident. Actually, wasn't a chosen path. I didn't come from an academic background, and I learned through the University of Life, really, and have been out there doing it. Ran my own business for 10 years, and then moved to Nelson in 2019. Picked up a job with Kumanu and Environmental, and we do heaps of different stuff, but really privileged to work alongside community trapping groups and volunteers helping out with their trapping programs. How do I make this go? Another way. There we go. So, a little bit about Kumanu. It's a division of Nelmac, and massive company that does a whole lot of stuff. But in my department, I'm really, again, privileged to work alongside some very clever people who can do pretty much anything in that environmental space. I'm an animal pest specialist, so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I guess starting out, you've got to decide what your pests are. When I started thinking about what I was going to talk about today, it's so wide, there's so many of them, we're not going to cover it in 10 minutes, and it can be overwhelming to try and think about how to control all of the pests you are likely to have on your property. So keep it simple, break it down. Just break it down into what pests you want to focus on and why. And the way we do that in the commercial way, and even in the volunteer space, is using monitoring tools. So there's a whole raft of monitoring tools out there. I've got some on my table and even some giveaways if you want to come and see me afterwards. Ways to identify what pests are present. It never ceases to amaze me that we don't know what we don't know. That picture there was a classic example of inside a trapping project where they were had a cage out for possums, and there's a plague of rats there. So kind of not the right tool for the pest that was causing the problems there. My background, so most of my pest control career has been in the TB program, and the TB program is coming to an end after decades of really successful program. So for me, if I was a landholder, I would see possums. You know, if we're going to break down, possums might be my first pest that I would want to tackle, because it reduces my risk if there was another disease outbreak down the track, has some good benefits for native flora and fauna, They do graze a bit of pasture as well. They're certainly liking that. So it's just an easy place to start. And that map, with an interesting little hash together, it's a very, very rough overview. But basically the red areas are where Osprey no longer does any work, and this is at landscape scale, so we're talking big landscape scale possum control. Osprey doesn't do any work, and councils aren't doing much work either, either through financial constraints or whatever. So top of the south is one of those areas where it falls back to community groups, catchment groups, landowners. Councils will support. There is a lot of support, but we need to be thinking in that space. First step, develop a bit of a plan. And I've heard a lot about plans today, and you guys are probably sick to death of having to have plans, but it is a key part of anything you do, sort of getting your head around what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, and how you're going to measure the success of what you've done. And there's lots of simple ways. Just going out and killing stuff and counting how many things you kill isn't an effective way of measuring your success, especially when you're up against uncontrolled boundaries, because they're just going to keep coming forever, and you'll always be catching something. So having a goal, so if your goal is to protect a patch of bush, you could be taking photo points of that patch of bush and watch it over time. Once you've got the numbers down, start to regenerate, start to flourish, get that undergrowth coming back in. Or if it's birds that you're trying to bring back in, 5-minute bird counts and focusing on indicator species is a really cool thing, which I've just started learning a bit more about. So yeah, bush robins, fernbirds, those at-risk species. Another big part of when you're thinking about your plan, you've got to understand the impact of what your control is going to have on not just the species that you're targeting, but other species that might be affected by that control. So example of that is if you get all keen because you've seen some ferrets or some stoats, and you go out and set a whole heap of stoat traps, and you slay the stoat population and the ferret population, and there's none of them around, rats could potentially thrive because they're their number one predator. Then when rats get high, they predate on some, bush robins, for example, really susceptible to rat predation. So it might actually have a negative impact on what you're trying to achieve. So it's just getting your thoughts in the right space and coming up with a bit of a plan. Key to those plans is collecting data. TrapNZ is just one platform that I would say the majority of volunteer trapping groups now are using. Really useful way of collecting in the field your kills and your catches, any monitoring that you do, and then being able to put that into a national database that can be shared and used across all sorts of agencies, or kept private if you just want to keep it to yourself. You can be as big or as small as you like. I've got 5 traps on a little block of land out there, Aotify, and I'll put them on TrapNZ. When I did that, I discovered my neighbour had some traps on TrapNZ, and the neighbour next to him had some as well. So now we've got this little hub happening where it's pretty cool. Once you've decided what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and why you're doing it, you've got a bit of a plan. You need to decide on what the right control devices are. And again, there's just so many devices out there. Currently, and today, if you went out to get some traps, predominantly they're still the old trap style stuff. There's a lot of cool tech and new stuff happening, but most of the trapping that I would do still to this day is using old school kill traps, stations, box traps, the variety that you will see around the place. When you're selecting your traps, you want to make sure you're following best practice. There is a NAWAC, which is the National Animal Welfare list of traps, approved traps. You want to adhere to that. You don't want to be using traps that don't kill things humanely. Understanding the legal requirements and regulations around that, and what the hazards and risks are with your trap. Classic one is I see a lot of people getting a box trap for a DOC 200 without sort of thinking through that there might be wicker on their property and that it's too small, and the wicker can get his head in there and get caught. So just all those little nuances. And I've heard this a lot today too, that every place is unique. So you've got to select what's right for your place, not just because that's what somebody told you they do up in the Waikato or somewhere else. So it's selecting your tools and then designing your control layout. Again, so many different ways to do this, so much advice out there on how to do it. Gold standard seems to be these days setting out permanent networks, but I'm actually an advocate of employing mobile networks or hunting, more of a hunting style for farmers anyway. So you'd have a set number of traps that you put out or you feed, and then you put them out, and then once they stop catching, you can move them on, and it just keeps you a bit more engaged rather than having a whole line of traps that over time, once you've caught the young and the dumb ones, you're not going to catch a lot anymore.
A lot of that can depend on what pollen is around at certain times. For example, you see migration into the pines, pine pollen, then you'll see the willows, and then they'll move. So if you've got a movable trap line, you can follow where the actual possums are going to be.
Yeah, perfect. Yep, exactly. It's those big old man pine buds, they'll come for 800 metres to a kilometre to those trees when they're budding, and walnuts, willows, crops, orchards, anything that's tasty, really. And that sort of feeds into my favourite person in the trapping scene over the last few years, Cam Speedy. He coined the phrase being a trapping ninja. Really important part of trapping, once you've got your trap network up and running, is giving it plenty of love. I see it time and time again where traps are put out, and like I said, you catch the young ones, the silly ones, and those ones that are a bit more cunning take a little bit more work to catch. So you've got to make sure your traps are in the right place, and if you need to move them because the willows have started budding and your traps aren't near the willows, then move them. Think about the animal behaviour, using plenty of lures, changing your lures is good, blaze is great, making sure your traps are maintained and calibrated to catch what you want to catch, they're actually working. Pre-feeding and closing your traps off. Again, my traps at my property, I don't leave them set all the time. I unset them, and I might have them unset for a month or even 2 months, just feeding. And then when I see a bit of sign on the trap, I'll set it, and bang, first night you'll have an animal in it, and then you set it again, and you get 2 nights later. They're just there. So little tricks and tips like that. Some great stuff on the Predator Free website from Cam. Check that out. All of this stuff helps with trap aversion, and trap aversion, I think, is a very real thing out there for a lot of trappers. So many times they say, I'm just not catching anything, but all my bait's gone. What's going on? I'm seeing sign, but I can't catch them. And I think it just comes down to trap aversion. They've either had hit a poorly set trap somewhere and been given a fright because it sprung, or they might have been caught and escaped. They might have seen their mates caught. They're not completely stupid animals, and some of them definitely learn. So you've got to be a bit cunning. And I've got an example here. Hopefully this works. We were trapping pigs, and we caught some pigs in this trap a couple of nights before that. The guys that came in here didn't clean the trap out properly, left a little bit of blood in there. He came in, sniffed that blood, got a fright, and thought, oh, that was weird. I'll have another look. I'm out of here. He never came back, and we never caught him. So trapping aversion is not just unique to pigs. It's things like cats, ferrets, possums even, and rats. They all learn. They all get cunning. So, being smart with the trapping, very important. Innovations. There's always new stuff happening. I'm not a R&D specialist, but I'm going to touch on some of the cool stuff that I've had the opportunity to work with recently. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to work with any of this remote sensing gear, but Steve down the back there's got some good yarns on it. So it's a game changer. Efficiencies, not having to check your traps all the time. You're getting told remotely when the trap's gone off or needs servicing. Really, really cool. Game cameras. They're probably the biggest thing that I've used in more modern times, and I don't know how we did pest control before game cameras because they're just so informative. That obviously that pig stuff, all of the photos I've had up there so far have been from game cameras. There's a few tricks to setting them up and making them work for you best. And there's advice again online about how to do that. My tip would be the Browning camera that showed there has a, and I've got one on my table again, has a screen on the back of the camera. Get one with a screen because when you're setting it up, before you walk away, you can see what it's looking at. Ones that don't have a camera, you don't really know what it's looking at. It's just a general area, and you might not be taking a photo of what you actually want to look at. And yeah, but game changers, love them, employ them. They're good for monitoring and just seeing what's going on at your trap sites. The AT220 auto traps, again, another game changer. So I've just, in the last 3 months, had the opportunity to use one of these in the Nelson region and had it set for 90 days, checked it twice, 27 confirmed kills, whereas with a normal kill trap that would have been 2. So it's a no-brainer to me. And I think these have a really great application for being a mobile trap at pre-fed sites. They cost a bit if you've seen them, but I think for that outlay, the gains you get from it, having 1 or 2 of these on your property would make a heck of a difference, and might be an alternative to having to set up a whole line of traps that you've got to check. The other cool thing, going back to cameras, this was another video, and I'm not sure if this one's going to work. No, it doesn't. When I visited the trap, I knew there was pigs and possums there. Pigs had been cleaning up the carcasses, but we had no idea there was cats there until I watched the footage and ended up with seeing 3 separate cats that had visited that trap site multiple times over the 90 days that it was out, and so that enabled us to set up cat traps and try and catch them because they were not domestic cats. They were miles away from any residential areas. Thermal, got a thermal camera on our drone over there. Again, anybody that's into hunting nowadays will have either wanted thermal or have got thermal because they are awesome for seeing stuff at night. We're using the drone to locate animals, guide hunting efforts. It also has applications for surveying habitat types, and the forestry guys use them. And just such a cool tool, really improving the places we can get to and the time it takes to gather data, really. Critter Solutions, so Boff and Miskell coming out with a whole lot of new techie stuff. Again, Steve's got some of this stuff on his table. The one that really blew my mind last year when Helen Blackie came and talked to us about it was this new trap, AI trap that we're developing. Basically, it's going to recognise whatever sticks its head or whatever body part into that trap and only go off on what you tell it to go off on, and do that repeatedly. But it takes a photo of everything, so it becomes a monitoring tool and a killing tool. Just like the AT220, that ability to kill high numbers without having to check it all the time. And I believe with this one too, it'll have that connectivity to be able to tell you remotely what's going on out there. So yeah, that'll be a game changer. Not sure where that one's at yet, but it's very close to coming to market, I believe.
I'll just throw in there, Nick.
Yeah.
That critter pick that you also had in there.
Yep.
That's also commercially available now too. So there's 2 options. One, people can buy it outright, but you can also hire it for a length.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think Nelson City Council bought some to lend out as well because they're really cool ID systems.
Did they buy them or they hired them?
Well, I knew they bought some, I'm sure.
But yeah, they're only this device here. They're a monitoring device. They won't kill anything. They'll just take photos of cool stuff and tell you what you've got lurking around on your forest or wherever you decide to put it. So in summary, my take-home message would be take some time to plan and collaborate if possible. It can be overwhelming, so just get out there and talk to other people who are already in that space. Use the local knowledge. Think about what is going to work for you. Don't try and do it all yourself, and don't try and do it all at once. There's massive social benefits from communities who get involved with pest control. My time with the volunteers, for a long time, coming from a commercial running my own business, I saw volunteers as people who were taking work off me. But coming into that space now, I've realised how valuable they are and the awesome work they do, and that social element, that social benefit, community pride that they get from being out there doing some good work. So yeah, get in amongst it if you can. Don't overcomplicate it. Another thing I see time and time again is people putting out too many traps and it becomes a burden. So keep your trap line short or whatever you decide to do. Start small, and then if you want to build it up, get more people involved. And celebrate your success. Make sure you collect some good data on those key species, measuring your success, so you can tell other people about it and potentially secure more funding to continue doing what you're doing. So yeah, thank you very much. That's me. Sorry it was short.
We've actually got Gillian going to come and talk about a similar one from the perspective of the Waimea Inlet. Are you going to talk about a similar thing, Gillian?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you come and talk similar, then we'll both do the question. We'll do questions from you both.
Yeah.
That would be the way of doing it. If you just keep going.
Stay here, Nick.
Don't go far anyway. You can take a seat, Nick. You'll be fine. That takes you forward to the next slide.
Okay.
And you go.
Okay. I must say, I can't add anything to what Nick said. Absolutely marvellous coverage of all the aspects, both social and technical, around trapping. So what I propose to do is just flick through what I've prepared and maybe leave some time for questions. I'm on a 15-hectare lifestyle block in Appleby on the edge of the Waimea Inlet. So half a farmer and half a trapper, really, except I've got cattle, sheep, lots of rabbits and pukeko on the property, but also a lot of bird life, over 30 species of bird, because we're on the coastline. So we have coastal birds, we have bush birds, and we have pasture type birds. So there's a lot of variety. I've been trapping since 2005, and then in 2014 the Battle for the Banded Rail project started up at the Waimea Inlet, and over time, now over 10 years, we now have 1,000 traps in a network around the Waimea Inlet, and they're all managed by volunteers, all using DOC 200s and rat traps mostly. As Nick said, it's important to know why you're trapping, and from a farming perspective, there's the reduction of disease, there's a reduction of crop damage and actually all sorts of damage by rats, and to protect and increase bird life. And so we're talking the full range of predators: cats, stoats, possums, and rats and hedgehogs. This picture is a remote trap with a pile of possum carcasses underneath, but you can see just the banded rail taking a wander path. So that's the advantage of trapping, is that some of those
threatened species have a chance of surviving. This is a self-resetting A220 automatic trap. So it's, as Nick said, it's important to select the traps that are going to fit your needs. And so you want to think about what species you want to target, what your budget is, how much time you've got to actually do it, and the terrain that you're going to be working in. Obviously, the more self-setting and automatic traps are better on the tricky terrain. This is just a selection of new tech bait stations, and Nick's probably far more informed about that, but on the right is the DOC 200. You can purchase or build your own traps. It's important to plan the location, start at an achievable scale. So you can start small and build up. From a farming perspective, fence lines are handy, and predators, if we're talking rats and stoats, etc., like to move along a path, so fence lines are pretty good. But you want to make sure that it's not on a machinery route. It's nothing more frustrating than having your trap run over by the tractor. And also stock disturbance is important as well. You can work independently or as part of a network, but being part of a network is very rewarding, and you're more likely to have more impact on a landscape scale if you're working together. You've got an opportunity, being part of a group like this, to attract some funding and get a coordinator, a paid coordinator for your trapping, which is really handy. That's what Battle for the Banded Rail has been very good for us, because no one person can get their head around all the technology that's available now and the new developments, or access to cheap products, or bait, or so get yourself part of a network, kill those pests. Share the knowledge and achievements. This is Tracy, our Battle for the Banded Rail coordinator, who's busy helping set out traps, and your riparian planting and bush blocks will respond quickly with increased bird life. It's surprising how fast the changes happen. Can I just say, who's trapping here? Yeah.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah. And do you do it for disease prevention or for bird protection? Disease prevention? Yeah. But bird protection mainly, or habitat. Yeah, biodiversity increases. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so that means you might have lots of questions. Come on in. If you've got we've got time for a few questions before we wrap up. Anything you're curious about? This is your last one.
So at ECOS we set up Indigenous forests, carbon forests as well. We've started moving into supporting biodiversity projects, so they don't necessarily sequester carbon, but you can actually get credits, biodiversity credits and such. And I was interested in what you were doing as well, Nick, with that particular, what's it called? The critter packs. And because obviously for us to be able to provide evidence that the actual funding is being spent correctly, I'm just wondering, could you potentially tell us about the range of kind of critters you can identify Is it a good work sense that mammals, birds, reptiles? What's the state of it? How effective is it?
Pretty much anything that will come and have a look in there will get its photo taken. So it will come down to what lures you put on it, and yeah, it's quite small. You've got one over there, is that right, Steve? No, you got the feeder.
It's an AI trained camera,
So
and so it depends on what the AI has been trained on. It's pre-trained, and so if it's trained for that animal, it'll tell you if it's there. Right, from lizards to cats.
Yeah, so
cat calls.
Insects, lizards, the ones that I've seen have captured lots of pictures of insects, lizards, snails, possums sticking their noses in, rats, mice, even cats and hedgehogs. Yeah. So
super good tool for the biodiversity because we're not really good at because we don't want to squash the lizards. So this is starting to tell us some really exciting things.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, but they last a long time.
It's the tech version to the footprint tracking tunnels that we've used for many years. Just the in-cast and closed tunnel. So try to create the tech version of that. And that's,
Sounds like
I've used it. Pretty cool.
That look good.
A terrestrial version of that eDNA kind of setup where you're also tracking what these guys are doing.
Kind of similar, yeah.
Cool. Next question.
What is the cost of the credit trade? The photo trade?
We are talking in the order of thousands. Yeah.
If you're going to buy one, last time I checked, it's around the $1,500–1,600 mark to buy it outright. But you can also hire them for a month or two at a time for roughly about a third of the price. But with that comes offers. Most will basically sending you all the info that comes from it, so that you write the catch to them in a way. But if you buy it outright, then I think you also still attached to that.
You have to be careful with them because they're addictive in that they'll send you information at 3 o'clock in the morning of what's just gone wandering through, and it gets very exciting. But you have to learn to sleep. Turn it off.
It is cutting edge. Wasn't that long ago these things were cutting edge and they were expensive and very large and awkward and not everybody had one. I think in time everybody's going to have this type of tech in their trapping projects. It'll become more affordable.
So check out Boffa Muscle. And they'll be bringing in that trained AI to catch things. There's some really good tech coming, but the price has to come down on them yet. With open boxes that an animal walks through and it goes squash, or it leaves it alone. Really cool stuff.
Well, this is more just a comment than a question. I just volunteer with the Mock Catchment Collective, and at the moment we have some funding for trap subsidies. So I know a lot of you guys are doing your own trapping anyway, which is awesome. But if you're after a few traps, come see me or Steve, and we can hopefully get some traps at a real discounted rate. So,
Great example of getting out in the community and talking to other people in the space, because there's always things like that happening, and that's a lot of people just start their own little trapping project, and it's not till they get out and start talking to other trappers and other agencies they realise, oh shit, I can get this. They're going to give me some lures. There's always a few freebies or subsidised trapping help out there.
And bulk buys.
Yeah, and bulk buys, yeah.
Well,
we also have a local group which really, like Jenny set up Nutri Birds on. We've got traps available for people to either buy at a discounted rate or to hire or borrow.
Cool.
A shed full of awesome. Anyway, I'd be happy to see that working somewhere.
Are they
Dock 200s and 4-foot tunnels with T-Rexes?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But my second-hand traps went to that shed and get distributed from there, so they get reused.
What about cats? Is anyone dealing with cats? Yeah.
Good work. I think that
you can tell us about that quietly later.
No, I actually think that conversation, we've all matured around cats now. That conversation could be had.
No, we haven't all. No. But we still have to get better at it.
One of those AT220 traps is programmed to recognise chips in cats. So going out, once we have legislation where cats are registered and chipped,
we've got traps that won't go off on cats that are registered and trapped. We can start using them in urban areas potentially.
Mm. Mm.
We've killed 18 cats on our place in the last year or so, and I'm sure they were all feral. So I released the neighbour's one twice, but it's a losing battle, I think, because I'm still up against people that think I'm going to kill their pet cat, which of course doesn't want it.
Can I jump in there?
Because they don't want it.
So cats are something that I'm pretty passionate about dealing with. But I always say, first and foremost, your neighbours are the ones you want to know. You want to know if they've got pets and where to watch out for them. As soon as you've got your neighbours and that on board, then just about can almost guarantee that everything else is going to be feral. So get everyone on board, whether they've got a cat or not. I have a cat and a dog, and I live on a 6-hectare bush block. My cat goes out for a week at a time and then comes back, which hasn't been caught or anything, which is kind of lucky. It's just one of those things to do with cat owner. But the cats that are out there, I've been lucky enough to work across over Tasman, Kaparangi, and a lot of Tasman itself. Cats are a huge problem, and it's about time we did some serious work on it. Sure. Yeah, so don't be afraid to deal with them. Nick's little video showed a really good example of your possum traps with a dead possum in. You walk up to it and the guts is gone. Definitely a feral cat every single time. Every single time.
And the thing with the cats, they're right from our urban areas right up into our alpine country as well. They're so widespread. But I don't think it's insurmountable to get on top of cats. Definitely an achievable goal. It's just getting the appetite and the perception out there that it's okay to do. Yeah.
In some areas, at least the local bodies are picking up on it and requiring chipping, detection, and containment.
Yeah.
Why are particularly sheep farmers being listened to? Cats carry toxoplasmosis. There's a huge amount of abortions every year. And yet we're the enemy if we kill a bloody cat on the field.
I'm not sure where Tasman District Council, but I think Nelson City Council have done.
Both councils have got so as of the 1st of July 2026, it'll be mandatory to have your cat chipped.
Yep.
And there's two areas, over Tasman National Park and Nelson Lakes National Park, where you've got to register your cat and you've got to have it desexed. So
it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere near far enough.
But you got to move somewhere, Philip. One at a time.
Is the cat lovers, if you kill it too far too quickly, which for me, I'd love to see all cats excluded from outdoors. I'd like to see them inside, in cat enclosures. That's what I'd like. But you try and put that out public too quickly. I think the time that's what we need to be working towards. But at the moment, this is a good step in the right direction. Getting cats desexed, registered, and
I'm impressed at how good the progress has been. I didn't expect it. Okay, any other questions before we start to wrap? So thank you both. Both of you. You could have me rave on for ages about all the things I've made, but actually what I'd like is you to think about what are you taking away from this day. We've gone from quite a wide range of material, something that will have stuck with you at least. So what are you taking away? And then I'm going to get a few people to tell me by asking you randomly. So think about it. What are you taking away? Got it in your head? Okay. I'm not really going to ask you randomly. Would someone like to tell me?
For me, it's about forestry and about the trapping, those two things in particular, and preservation of bird life. So
Nice. Next. Who else? Come on, you looked at me.
Yeah, actually coming to the cats thing, it's cool to see how much progress we're making on this. I've had a cat, I love cats as well, but I'm keen to see it part of the predator free.
Oh. Yes, bring that on.
I'm gathered geeks as well, because that talk on solar was pretty cool. Like that really sparked my interest in how, not just for farmers, but residential people should be getting on board with solar.
I really was excited with the data management. That's a tool I haven't seen before. I've seen others, which have been quite expensive. So I thought the information was really, really helpful.
One more.
I'd just like you to thank you for organising it. It's actually been really useful. I've got lots of pamphlets that I'm going to follow up and contact people because it's been great. Really good meeting.
We could hardly avoid a segue from that to finish up, but we. On that vein, I'd like to stand up, like Diana's to stand up, and Shannon to stand up, and we've lost Lucy. Lucy's gone to the kitchen where she is probably doing all the, looked after. All that food today was cooked for and brought to us by Lucy. That wasn't a catering company. That was Lucy, the catering company. That was Lucy of the team. So Lucy's run away. Yes. So the spiritual one that's sitting here as well, the three of these have organised this. I've just come to help. And so a round of applause for these three people. Now we've got a lot of people here.
All right. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. It's been fantastic to hear all the questions and conversations and the chatter going on around the trade stand. Really appreciate everybody coming along today. It's been fantastic. Thank you for taking out your day, the day before your long weekend. We weren't sure how many people might be able to make it along, but we really appreciate that you're taking out the day to spend learning about this topic. Yeah, much appreciated. And just also a big thanks to the speakers. We really appreciate you all. I've just found this day fascinating. I'm not from a farming background, but I've just lapped up all the content. I think it's just been great to hear from everybody the range of topics. So thank you very much to our speakers.
You started, you can finish.
I'm going to finish it. Well, I'm just adding more thank you. Thank you everybody for being here today. I really value the conversations that came up after the presentation, and want to thank Scott as well for his help and keeping the timing and moving the people from one place to another to check the stands and keep you guys engaged and paying attention. So thank you, Scott. And I would like to remind you, please don't forget a native tree. We really want you to encourage to do some planting and continue restoring the catchment together. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in fact, I'll leave that slide. That's the last slide. Fine. So we're going to keep